Welcome to this week's episode. I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you folks out there in the aviation world sell more of your products and services.
Absolutely. And we're doing a little bit of a series on startups and side hustles in the aviation industry. And this is a lot of fun because some of our clients are or started as startups or side hustles by somebody in the industry who had a great idea and decided to strike out on their own, start a company, and do what they do, right?
Yep.
And this is really cool for people who are experts in a particular area, or maybe are pilots who have a schedule that allows them to have a certain amount of scheduled time on their hands. Other people that maybe have been furloughed for a while during the pandemic, other things like that. There's an idea that's knocking around in your head that could be the next really cool aviation business. And in order to pursue that, you need to start with an idea, right?
Yep.
Okay.
First there was the dream.
First there was a dream. So if you have an entrepreneurial bent, you may be looking at different ideas for side hustles in the aviation industry. And if you are passionate about the aviation industry, this is where you ought to be spending your time and your energy because the industry needs you, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need the innovation, and we need people who are able to provide products and services that nobody has thought of yet, that there may be a need for. And as the industry is evolving like everything else, there's a lot that needs to happen. All right, so we put together a list, a very long list of ideas, and we're not going to talk about every one of these, but what I'm going to do is just have John and I look at a list and pick out one or two that you think is particularly cool for whatever reason.
This is really bad to have lists on the video screen.
I know. That's why we're going to put this into the article as a list that is great for SEO.
Of course.
But we also need to talk about some of these things that are maybe pretty obscure that you may not have thought of. So the aircraft washing and detail service, as an example, is really important, especially in the age of COVID. Everybody is really excited about having their aircraft cleaned and done the right way. So, if this is something that you could do at your airport, you can use all of the approved chemicals and processes and checklists and everything else and make people feel really good about their aircraft being super clean and super fabulous, and you do a really good service, then that is something that's needed, right?
Yeah, it's been needed forever. I grew up in a different time, okay? I used to be an airport bum.
Mm-hmm.
And I would wash airplanes and charge people $20. I'd wash their airplanes, and I'd use that money to go fly. You could rent an airplane $5 an hour, wet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got to know me, and then after a while, I'd go say, okay, your airplane's clean. He said, yeah, I don't have $20. How about if you just fly it around the pattern a couple times? I said, okay. So they tossed me the keys, and I'd go fly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of these I had never been. I've got an entire first logbook full of 0, 2, 3, and 4 pattern work, and every airplane's different. I never got checked out at them. I just went flying.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, all you needed to know was on the gauges.
Yeah.
If you had a feel for mechanical stuff in airplanes, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but washing and detail service is still needed.
Yeah, exactly. And nowadays, the airport bums and kids can't even get on the airport.
Yeah, I know.
And, there's no way they're touching a plane without insurance. So, this needs to be done by somebody who has thought through the business process and has put together all of that stuff. Laundry and dry cleaning is another great opportunity if you can pick up and deliver on the airport because you have an airport-based business. There's a lot that goes on with uniforms and towels and, all that stuff that I had never thought about until we heard about some companies that are doing this. Mm-hmm. And they actually do a pretty big volume of business at a decent-sized airport. So, that is a thing. Procedures training that is another thing. So, there's a specific way that people are supposed to get onto the airport, or how to fill out a security badge, how to do these kinds of things, and how to fuel an airplane. There's a lot of different equipment-specific procedures and things, and sometimes they want in-person training. So if you can go do that in-person training and sign people off, more power to you, right?
Yep.
Right. And all of these really depend on, what are you interested in, and what do you have access to already, and what can you research, and what do you have contacts and networks already in the neighborhood to do, or sometimes not in the neighborhood. Sometimes they're local, sometimes they're not local, depending on what's going on. Bird and wildlife management, that is a thing out here in Utah. They have geese and seagulls and other crazy things. And so, I don't know how they manage that. I know in some places in Alaska and things like that, they employ people with dogs or noisemakers or guns or whatever to manage the wildlife, so that they can clear the airspace above the airport for different operations. And just about anything you can think of, there's somebody that does that.
And then it's a bigger issue than you realize. It's not just birds, but I know a story about where a gentleman was getting ready to go fly checks. Taxied out to the end of the runway and started doing his run-up procedures, and a deer walked into one of the props. He just saw it too. And so, it was just messy and bloody, and it was one of those times when it was gray, overcast, and raining, and he didn't see it till the last minute.
Oh, that is sad.
So there is a need for wildlife management at an airport.
Exactly, right. And some of these things, like being an area guide or an expert on a particular area or a particular airport, that can be very useful for people flying into the area, either for tourism or for industry or whatever. Being a concierge type of a person. People who are involved with private aviation are in it for the convenience. So if you can make things more convenient in some way for people, a lot of these activities are where it's at, right?
Mm-hmm. Even the smaller airports still, there are most small airports, not necessarily dirt runways, but small paved strips. You used to be able to go in there and they'll have a car you can rent for $5 to go downtown, get lunch, and come back. Just keep it, fill it with gas and you're good. But something like that, you don't have to be a Hertz dealer.
Right.
But something, because there are rent-a-wrecks around now. But, you can...
There's lots of ways to get this done. And, things are changing so quickly. The Ubers and the Lyfts of the world and the food delivery and everything has changed so much over the past year that there's a lot of room for improvement, especially on airports where they may be lagging behind. This is one of my favorite ideas that I ran across, being a celebrant for destination weddings. This kind of goes back to the old tradition of how ship captains used to be able to celebrate weddings, or used to be able to officiate a wedding. And so you can, on the internet, get a license to officiate weddings. And then, you can take a couple somewhere, hitch them, and bring them back, or leave them there for their honeymoon. And that really just adds to the number of packages that are available if you are a pilot in the tourism industry. If you also have a license to be a celebrant for destination weddings, you could have some great stories on your website. Marketing that service. Construction concierge delivery services. Sometimes there are construction projects out in the middle of nowhere and they need something right away. And if you can specialize in delivery of strange things in strange places, that can be a really lucrative business as well. If you are an attorney or anything of that sort, you don't even need to be an attorney, you just need to be an expert. You can be an expert witness for court proceedings. There's lots of people getting sued all the time. unfortunately, in the aviation industry. And they need people who know things about very technical areas of the industry that can be friends of the court or called as witnesses in those cases. Fishing charters, that's another favorite of a lot of people that, they want to retire and go fishing. So why not use a seaplane? You can get the licensing that's required for that area and things like that, and run a fishing charter.
Some areas have things that you have to know about if you live there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember flying from a small town in Oklahoma to another. I actually flew from a small town in Oklahoma to a golf course and landing on the fairway because it was the runway.
Mm-hmm.
And then taxiing off under a bunch of trees, and I had the family on board, and we would just get out and have a picnic. Rented an airplane and by then the price was $29 an hour for a Piper Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 29. We kept the airplane all day for 1 hour worth of flying.
Oh my gosh. That's fantastic. See, and if you specialize in a particular area and specialize in fishing or golf or whatever the recreation is around that area, and you can get people to the best places,
yep.
That is really, really cool. And we're not talking about any of the legal requirements or anything in this episode. We're just talking about ideas. So this is all just brainstorming, right?
Yep. I'll stand with some stories I actually did.
Exactly. Well, here we've got the golf charter coming up again. Lots of freelance ideas. Whatever it is that you do for the industry, there is a possibility that you could do it freelance. So if you're a flight attendant, if you are an IA, if you're a technician that specializes in a particular aircraft type, there's lots of things that you could do. If you're a writer, if you're an artist, if you are a photographer, any of those things, they need those in the industry, right?
Yep.
Right. You could be in healthcare and work in aviation. So, organ transportation, organizing those kinds of things, making sure that things are meeting all of the requirements for aviation and for healthcare. All of those kinds of things. They need consultants that will help them get all the paperwork together and make sure that they're meeting all of those requirements and best practices and things like that. Insurance, that's always a good one for somebody looking for a side hustle. Journalist. I wish there were more journalists that knew something about aviation, right? A lot of the folks that are doing journalism in aviation is a second or third specialty for them, and they really don't know that much about the topic. So if you know something about the industry or you're retiring as a pilot or a technician or something like that and have ever been interested in journalism, that might be a really good opportunity for you. Brokers of parts, brokers of fuel and consumables, brokers of anything, any noun, right, that is bought or sold by the industry. Podcasting, there's a lot of people starting podcasts in the aviation industry. When we started 13 years ago, there was maybe two. There's the Airplane Geeks, and there were maybe a couple more, and now there are probably 50 podcasts in the aviation industry, but there's always different niches that aren't covered, so you can look for that.
Real estate photography. Now, there's one I did, actually. I started the business to fly a photographer around.
Oh, cool.
And we had enough contracts so we actually made some money after paying for the rental on the airplane. And let me take the door off the airplane and the 172. And we'd fly around in the middle of freaking winter, getting his camera acclimatized, and then go take the pictures wherever. And we contracted with cities and sometimes states.
Yeah.
But we did some interesting stuff. That's one that not many people do anymore. Yeah. But you may want to do that now with drones rather than airplanes or helicopters.
Right. But, if you were working with real estate agents or you are a real estate agent, then you need an airplane to get people to different properties to show them off. And, especially around here, we have mountain real estate where people are going to Park City, they're going to Brigham City, they're going to Logan, they're going to Kaysville, they're going different places that, to look at houses. And doing that in an airplane, you could see a lot more than you would driving people around in your car, which is what most real estate agents do. And imagine the competitive advantage here, especially for super high-end real estate, which, there's a lot of in different places. So tax consultant, that one is huge. Every state has different laws and rules about taxes and different laws and rules about everything. So being a consultant that helps people figure all that out is really cool. Technology consultant, there's a lot of technology on aircraft now, and people don't always want to believe the vendors about everything, especially if they have a lot of technology on their airplane and it doesn't seem to be working together very well. Then they would like to have somebody that they can talk to about how to make this work. Lots of UAV ideas. And we actually have a couple of episodes that we did earlier this year about UAVs and some of these business opportunities with UAVs too.
Yep.
The nice thing is if you are a pilot, you already know a lot of the FAA regulations that are going to be on the UAV licensing exam.
Yeah.
So you kind of have a head start over the average citizen that wants to start a UAV business. So, you kind of have a clue.
Yep.
All right. So, lots of ideas. Hopefully you've run across a few that you hadn't thought of before. And if you are in the market for starting a business, and you have an idea and you're already to the point where you want to get it to take off, that's what we're in the market of doing for people, is helping them sell their products and services. And one of the most common reasons that new businesses fail, it's like 1 out of every 7 businesses fails within the first year. And most of the reason for that is they run out of money. And most of the reason for running out of money is running out of customers. So, if you have a good, healthy pipeline of customers and future customers who are interested in your product or service, if you've got a great waiting list of people that want to buy from you, that is a great place to start as a business, because then you've got an income and you've got that reassurance that that's going to be there. So before you quit your job, it's nice to have that lifeline and have that marketing and that sales funnel in place so that you know that there's a market. You've got customers that are already interested and wanting to sign up as soon as you're willing and able, right?
You bet.
All right. So what's included in this, we're going to have another episode after this one where we talk about the details of what's included in here. But the basic gist of it is it's everything that we wish we had when we started our first startups a million years ago, right?
Well, it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, come on. It was a long time ago in terms of technology and other things.
Yeah. There wasn't any tech except for mainframes when I started.
Yeah, and light years of difference in terms of our knowledge and experience with sales and marketing. And that makes all the difference in the world, because, we both run successful businesses in the past, but have had businesses fail because we were just keeping our current customers happy and weren't worried about getting others. So we want to prevent that for you. We want to make sure that you've got enough customers that you could fire any one of them for any reason, or they could fire you, because a lot of times that happens for reasons outside of your control, no matter how good of a job you're doing. And having a nice pipeline is a really reassuring thing. So that's our intention with our startup bundle, is to make sure that you've got a good, healthy pipeline of intended customers. So go sell more stuff.
The industry needs the business.
Absolutely.